We want to bring in now Carl Icahn, who has joined us once again by phone. Carl, welcome. It's great to talk to you today. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, Scott, good to talk to you.
So I think you know why we wanted to have you on today, principally to talk about Herbalife and the fact that Bill Ackman has gotten out of that. But in light of the news that we're discussing as you join us today on these tariffs that are going to be introduced by the president next week on steel and aluminum, do we as investors need to be concerned about a trade war? Are you today?
No, I'm not that concerned about a trade war, but I am somewhat, as I've said before, somewhat concerned about the overall market. I think there are a lot of variables that you have to worry about. But I've said it. I think I think guessing about the market is really a very difficult game. So I stick to what I know. I stick to the companies that I feel I'm pretty knowledgeable about. And
but do you? Let me ask it this way then. Do you think the markets are going to be reacting more than maybe they have in the past directly to some of the stuff coming out of Washington, whether it is talk of trade wars, whether it is perceived or, as some have described, chaos out of the White House? How are you thinking about that directly as somebody who, look, knows the president? You had an informal advisory role in the past, and I'm just wondering, we are talking today about the possibility of a trade war.
Well, yeah, first one knows the president. I do know him, but I've had, I'm busy with what I'm doing, and he's obviously extremely busy, so I haven't had much interaction with him at all in the last 4 or 5 months. However, being that said, I think the major thing you have to worry about or think about is creeping inflation in the core inflation. And if you have creeping inflation, I think you're going to have higher interest rates, which I think might be difficult to deal with for the market.
Yeah, it's interesting. Paul Tudor Jones was giving an interview, Carl, within the last 24 hours to Goldman Sachs, in which he said on the idea of inflation, I think the recent tax cuts and spending increases are something we will all look back on and regret. What do you make of those comments from Paul Tudor Jones?
I don't think you're going to look back on the tax cuts. I think the tax cuts, are positive, because I think the more money that you have outside of the spending ability of Washington is better. In other words, I don't believe in big government. I don't believe in government spending. My whole philosophy is entrepreneurship, where if you have a private company spending it, although I'm a critic of many private companies, there are still very many good ones. So I agree with the tax cut, but I do think that Paul Tudor Jones said, though, if you look back and you look at this economy, I think that a lot of things going on, for instance, in Wall Street, and I've said this before, are going to become problematic. I mean, I think it was on Seeking Alpha or whatever, we talked about this.
Yeah, Delivering Alpha.
Delivering Alpha.
Yep.
We talked about this, and I really think that is going to be a problem one day. When you have when you have people that don't understand the market buying ETFs and buying them on margins, buying these derivatives. I mean, those are the problems that you have to focus on. I think it's very difficult to say if tomorrow, next week, next month, even next year, there's going to be an eruption. But I go to the simplistic but obvious things, which is if you have higher interest rates, there's going to be difficulty for a lot of even a lot of investment-grade bonds could have some problems.
Bill Ackman throws in the towel after this 5+ year battle with you. What was your reaction yesterday when you found out the news of my report that Ackman was done?
Yeah, well, I felt that Bill was going to get out. I even thought he'd get out sooner. I thought he basically lost the battle, a few months ago, and bought those puts, and so I wasn't that surprised. But as I say, I enjoy a good fight, especially when I win it, and I think the Herbalife management did an incredible job through this. It was a major distraction for Herbalife. I think Herbalife is a great company. It makes great product. I think simplistically, people, I made a lot of money over the years just looking at things real simply. I think Herbalife brings jobs to many people. The model brings jobs. It makes people entrepreneurs, which is really great for this country. This is how we built this country. And you have people that are basically out of work. It's the opposite of what Bill was saying. You have people out of work that actually were given an opportunity to make money. You know, when I was 15 years old, when you didn't have to worry about working papers as much, this goes back a hell of a long way. For one summer, I was a full of brush man, and I loved it. They made me, I was a tall kid, so they made me a full of brush man. I was a good sales guy, and I was one of the best full of brush men. They tried to talk me into staying in full of brush and not going to college. And, of course, I wasn't going to do that. You know, I was very happy I got accepted at Princeton, which was very surprising to me. And I went on to college, but I remember those days. I remember the thrill of having your own business, and you do that at Herbalife. And Herbalife is unique in that it's hard to get into that business, the big barriers of entrance to it. And I really think that's, to me, a growth company. I look at that as a major growth company because I think it brings on a new channel of getting to the consumer. You know, with all this e-commerce putting out the retailers, you have that. And they built up, I have a big position in it, so I guess I have an agenda, but it's not going to help me if it goes up 2 points or down 2 points today as a result of it. But, the company really is great, and Bill Ackman just had the wrong idea on it. But he put up a hell of a great fight. He put up a good fight, and the good thing here is that now there is no further distraction, and you have. You know, I've been a critic of a lot of managements, but I say there's some very good managements.
Right.
And Herbalife has a very good management.
You made what, $1 billion?
Yeah, I'm on paper I made $1 billion. I haven't cashed it in,
right.
But you know.
Well, that leads me to my next question. Will you cash it in?
Well, you know, I just told you this, that I don't discuss positions, but what I'm going to do and how I'm going to trade them. You know, first of all, we have 13Ds out, and if I had made a decision like that, I probably would put it to a 13D. But I will tell you that I think it's a great company, and it's got a great future. And I've said that. I've said that when it was 30. I said it was 25. I said it was 35. I mean, I honestly, in a strange way, thank Bill because when he went in against it. What alerts me to stocks is when they go down, when they're in trouble and go down, and that alerted me to it. So I thank him for that, but he put up a real good fight, and and I really wish him well. I mean, it's not there's no personal animosity, I think, on either side. If you ask Bill,
have you spoken with Bill?
Yeah, I did. He was kind enough, and I thought it was a classy thing. He called me up yesterday and congratulated me.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What was the tenor of your conversation?
Oh, just in general. You know, we just talked in general, and he complimented me, actually, and I told him, I complimented him. I said, you did a good fight, and, I love a good fight. And he said, yeah, it was really interesting, and you sort of, your strategies were great. And I said, yeah, Bill, and thank you for saying that. I mean, but I thought it was classy of him to do that.
Right.
And, so there's not a personal thing here. You know, I don't get into personal vendettas. I find it not profitable to do that.
Yeah.
It's always good to friendly. You know, instead of having an enemy, it's always better to have a friend.
Could you ever imagine a day when you guys could invest together?
Yeah, I could imagine it. I have no personal animosity against Bill. Look, when you get in the heat of a battle, you say things. But I will say he made it really difficult. And I want to just get back to this. He made it really difficult for the management team there. That's what he was doing, and they did a great job. I mean, Richard Goodis really ran this company greatly. Michael Johnson did a great job in fighting it. I mean, it really took a toll on him. John DeSimone, the CFO. I didn't get to meet many of the people there because I have people on the board. I'm not on the board myself, but I did meet them all. I had dinner with them a few times. Johnny Simone and Alan Hoffman. They all were really great in what they did. I can't say surprised, but I really respected how they continue to build that company up in the face of this adversity. And I think a lot of managements, I'm a major critic of a lot of companies, managements, and that's what I do. I buy companies when there's bad management. This was a bit of an exception. But there are great managements around, and this company has what I consider to be an A-rated management team.
You like to say throughout this 5-year saga, when people sort of questioned how long your staying power was going to be, that you haven't sold a single share. I know you just said, obviously, there hasn't been a 13D file. There's been no filing. Is that still the case? Have you not sold a single share? Are you still sitting on the...
Scott, I have not sold one single share of Herbalife. I've been buying it. We got, I think, 26% of the company. I have not sold one share of it. I think you in Herbalife might even have a small secular change in the way you're going to have retailing, and so I tell you, they have great barriers of entrance. In a strange way, the FTC might have even helped them in building those barriers because the FTC has put on certain restrictions on just how you have to report. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of it.
Sure.
Have you report this whole network and how you got to show that there really is a network and there really is buying product. And they built up a great, at expense, they built up a great system to show how you could do that. And that's going to make it difficult for other companies to enter. There's also barriers of entrance because they do have really good products that they've developed over the years. And as a result, I'm quite bullish on the company, but something, I don't go out and say what I'm going to do with my stocks. That would be counterproductive for what I do.
I understand. I mean, I think telling us that you haven't sold a single share still helps people understand sort of where your frame of mind is today. Let's switch gears. You announced good earnings today, by the way, for IEP. That stock, your stock was up 4%, and you really in your filing, double down on the activist model continuing to work. And I want to talk to you about what the market thinks is your new activist target, and that is Newell. How big is your position in Newell, and what are your intentions, Carl?
Well, again, just just like I don't talk about my positions. I will tell you that I do have a large position in Newell, and I don't deny it. I am looking at the different views between the management team and between the activist investors.
Right, Starboard, right? Starboard and Martin Franklin's in there too, together.
Franklin, yeah.
Right.
And they have really basically different views on where this company should go. I believe Newell itself is undervalued, and that's why I bought it. I mean, the stock went down from 55 to 25 or something when we got into it. And I do think that there's potential because these brands are another area in the retail business that I think will still survive and, in fact, get even more profitable. So I can't say more than that about it because I really have not determined which way I'm going to go in it. I do have a large position, but obviously...
But can we say your large position is not yet 5%, obviously, or you would have filed?
Not 5%, but 5% is a lot in that company, obviously, a big company. And but I think I have one of the larger positions. I mean, there's a few institutions that have more, and I think they're going to be instrumental in deciding who wins it. I might have something to say about that, but
does it make a difference to you that Starboard and Mr. Franklin are already waging a proxy fight against the company? They want the whole board out. They want the CEO out. and maybe it presaged anything that you had up your sleeve as well. How does that affect the way you think about what may happen?
Well, I mean, I don't quite understand the question.
Well, look, they came out public with a proxy fight already. I'm wondering how that influences how you think about what you might do next. Right? Normally, we would expect to see you lead the charge, perhaps, on a proxy fight. But now that you have another activist already rattling the cage,
I'll tell you this much, which is not known. I was considering, talking to the company and possibly putting up a slate determined by whether or not I feel that the company's going the right direction. Obviously, the company went way down. It had bad guidance. The guidance was negative. And I was thinking about that, but then I realized that the night before the slate was due, I realized that that there was going to be another slate, and I figured, Martin Franklin's a well-known guy in this business, and he had the backing of Jeff Smith, who's a real smart guy, and I saw that, and then, and I do think that the management team have followers also, and I said, what the heck am I doing here? I'm going to be the third horse in a three-horse race, and so I just decided, why should I get into it? I was only going to get into it if I felt that, and I might have got into it or not got into it, determining by what I thought the management was going to do. But I tell you this, that I have talked to Mike Polk a bit, and he has some, I think, very interesting views about the future of the company, and he basically is a capable guy, I think. So I think it's going to be a tight race, and I think I have to decide which way I'm going to go. But I do think the company is undervalued. Put it that way. Obviously, I think.
Right.
That.
Well, we'll certainly pay attention to it. Look, I want to wrap things up. We've bled into the next hour, and they're gracious enough to have us do that. Let me wrap it up this way, Carl. The Dow is now down 270 points, and maybe some of that has to do with worries of a trade war, among a whole host of other issues. As I said at the top of our interview, you were with us a few days before the market bottomed and then bounced. Do you think we're going to go back and retest the lows now? And what do you make of the speed at which stocks were able to come back?
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. It's fascinating that happened. I study the market a lot, obviously, because we have these huge positions. I would tell you that I do not really think, and especially at this time, I don't say this facetiously, that anybody really knows which way this market's going to go on a short-term basis. I really think there are too many variables. There are too many things that could happen either way at this moment. And so you sort of have I think you have to have a hedged position. I mean, for somebody that's got a major positions. But to come out and say, I'm sort of amazed I'm amazed at some of these guys I listen to that are so definite. It's going to go up or it's going to go down. They're so damn definite. It reminds me, I think it was Disraeli who said it at one time in Parliament, where there was a young guy there in Parliament or something who kept talking about one thing and another thing and another thing. And Disraeli said, young man, with some lord he was talking to, young man, I would be so happy in my life, so happy, if I could be as sure of one thing as you are sure of everything. And that's what I think of when I listen to these guys tell you what the market's going to do. Because I really do not believe that there's anyone can predict on a short-term basis generally what the market's going to do, but particularly now. But I do think that the model, the activist model, is still one of the best models there is. We practiced it for 18 years, and as you see, and I'm proud to say that our annualized return, if you bought our stock, IEP, 18 years ago when we got into this activism thing, I did it before the 18 years ago, but in IEP, you made a return of 15% a year annualized. You had some up years and some bad years, but basically you just kept it. You made 15% annualized if you invested the dividends you got. And if you compare it to the S&P at that time, which you think the S&P is good, and it is good, you only made 5%. So that model works. But a model, I haven't really seen anyone that makes money consistently telling you, oh, I'm going to buy stock now, and I'm going to trade it, and I'm going to sell it, I'm going to buy it. I just don't think there are just too many variables for the human mind and even these computers to tell you with any real certainty what is going to happen in the next week or month. I think there are certainly, as I said, if you're looking at over a period of the next 2 years, you have to be cognizant that there are dangers there. And I've said it, 2, 3 years ago, but you're never going to know when it hits.
Sure.
You're just not going to know when it comes. So to predict that, I go back to the model I know best, which is activism. I think of many companies in this country. Look, I just listed Donald Trump, and I respect what he says, and I certainly respect Wilbur Ross and all that. But, one of the problems with our companies, our productivity, I keep saying, in many companies, is poor management and poor boards, and the boards don't hold companies accountable. And the difference really is, and I've shown it, that over the 18 years, we take companies, we nurture them, we work with them. If the CEO is great, we love him. Look, the CEOs at HLF, the management, I like them a great deal. But if they're not producing, you make them accountable, and that's what life should be, and that's what it is in a private company. And therefore, that model, I believe, it works. And I say over years, if you do that model, you'll make money. But if you start predicting the market, it's like going to Vegas with you and telling you ought to pay me because the farmer's wife just shot 5 sevens, and I'll tell you what she's going to do. And you laugh at me, right? You say, I'm not going to pay you to tell me what dice she's going to throw. And it's very close to that in the market. I mean, obviously, you study it, and I read about it, so maybe I have a bit of an edge in predicting the market, but not enough of an edge.
Do you ever take a look at steel or aluminum stocks, those sort of industrial stocks?
Well, I do. Yeah, I've looked at them. In fact, many years ago, we had a large position and we're activists in U.S. Steel way back. That goes way back to the 80s. But yeah, I mean, we look at it. I'm not going to criticize U.S. Steel. I don't know enough about it, and I do think. Look, I think Donald Trump has done some real good things. Some things maybe I disagree with him on, but he's done some real good things. And this whole business with the tariffs and saying we got to save these companies, I think there is some real truth in that. On the other hand, I think with all companies, a lot of companies in this country, you should look at the managements, and some are great managements. And some are poor managements, but that's something we should be really doing more about, that accountability.
The management certainly in that room with the president, Carl, I'm sure you heard them as well, whether it was the CEO of U.S. Steel or the others.
Yeah, and I'm not criticizing U.S. Steel. Don't get me wrong.
I got you, but they're certainly...
I'm not criticizing Caterpillar.
Yep.
I don't really, I know the companies I know. But, yeah, and I see their point, but of course... That's the whole point about the market, too. There's a delicate balance, right? Because if you do too much to hurt these emerging markets, that's going to hurt us, too. So there's a real delicate balance. Being that said,
sure.
I think there is a lot to what they're saying about fair trade, it being fair and having that you can't, if you subsidize, if a country is subsidizing a steelmaker, it's obviously unfair, So I think there's something to that, but I'm no expert on that.
Carl, we're gonna throw the ball over to our friends at Power Lunch. The Dow, as we speak, is selling off. It's down more than 330 points. Thank you very much for being on today for really a discussion on a wide number of topics. Your own earnings today. Your stock is up. Herbalife. We obviously know the news there. Your victory over Bill Ackman after 5+ years. Thank you for your time today.
Okay, thanks for talking to me, Scott.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.